And welcome to Hannity. And tonight, Democrats, they are in complete panic mode. The media mob, they're pretty hysterical. And talk of mutiny inside the Democratic Party is now widespread. We are one day removed from the first 2024 presidential debate. It did not go well for Joe Biden. It went very well for Donald Trump. In fact, many analysts, including myself, believe that for Joe Biden, this was the single worst debate performance in American televised presidential debate history. Now, here's a Politico headline, quote, Democrats really have no way to spin Biden's disastrous debate. And another, quote, WTF, panic Dems start looking for alternatives to Biden. Here's an actual headline from fake news CNN. We are effed. Democrats despair over Biden debate performance. Don't blame me for the language. Anyway, everyone watching last night witnessed what? A weak, frail, mentally impaired man with a very poor memory. They saw the 1,000-yard stare, open mouth, glossy eyes. They heard confusion, muttering, trouble with numbers and names and concepts. In other words, Joe. And post-debate, well, we saw Biden struggle to get down 3 or 4 stairs, getting off the debate stage, with his wife helping him every single step of the way. Now, a few minutes later, the First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, led a cringeworthy post-debate rally while her husband, the president, stared off into space like he did all during the debate. Take a look.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts. And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Lie! Yes.
Joey, you did it. You did good. You answered every question and everything. I guess love is blind, isn't it? Joe Biden clearly is not well. But this isn't some kind of breaking news revelation here. Biden has obviously been in a very steep cognitive decline for years, as we have been reporting on this show over and over and over again since before he was president. As a matter of fact, we got criticized often for doing so. You might remember. It's not just his terrible record and his hard left turn. Add to that as well, let's be honest, cognitive struggles that are now more than a little concerning. He's so obviously having cognitive issues. That's being polite. Every hostile regime in the world sadly knows that Joe is weak and frail, and they also know what all of you know, that he's a cognitive mess, unfortunately. And you might remember when I started talking about Joey gets a good night bedtime story and warm milky and sippy cup. Remember that? That was 2021. You know, we were only stating the obvious. Biden's poor performance last night was not anything new. It was not out of the ordinary. We show it to you almost every night. We saw this every single week, almost every speech, and yet, for years, the state-run media mob, their friends in the Democratic Party, they're saying this is a conspiracy theory. As of a few days ago, what were they claiming? Oh, that's right, unedited videos of Biden. These are cheap, fake videos. No, they were real. Take a look at your screen. Here's the New York Times. On the left, they call videos of Biden's struggles, quote, misleading. That was last week. On the right, at least 4 headlines after the debate begging Joe to drop out because of his cognitive decline. But it wasn't just the New York Times. Here's MSDNC's Liberal Joe, our old friend. Take a look.
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever. Not a close second. And I've known him for years. We saw last night why this race has been close and why I fear Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States unless things change.
Best Biden ever? If you can't handle the truth, blank you. Joe, you want to apologize for that? Anyway, I guess Democrats thought they were going to be lying their way into re-election. According to the left, according to the media mob, Biden was always on his game. They said Joe would accomplish more in 1 hour than most Americans do in an entire day. He's got more energy. I'm having a hard time keeping up with him, some of his young staffers would be out there saying. And this was only a couple of weeks ago. Take a look.
He's fine. All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong.
President Biden has a photographic memory.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
I think there is so much misinformation, disinformation, as we've been talking about. You talked about the video of the president wandering, and it's not true.
President Biden is taking this debate prep incredibly seriously. You will see a very energized President Biden. I can assure you of that.
Joe Biden doesn't have any concerns about his mental fitness, and nor do I. I've spent an incredible amount of time with Joe Biden. That's just the fade that the other side is pushing.
You all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video.
Cheap fake videos, really? All the Democrats, all the media, they've all been lying to you and to the American people for 4+ long years. But after last night's debate, well, the gig is up. No one is fooled. Democrats are now desperately looking, should we make a last-minute change or not? Not because of the truth, which is they've known about Joe Biden's cognitive and mental decline or the fact that he has been a terrible president, but because they may lose in November, and the polls are showing that, and now they're going to get worse. They have been fully aware of Joe's decline, lying about it, hiding it all from the American people. For them, political power is all that matters. They don't care about the truth or logic or doing the right thing. In 2016, they perpetrated the dirty dossier that Hillary Clinton bought and paid for, that dirty Russian disinformation dossier. Yeah, guess what? That dossier. And then, of course, no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute Hillary for top-secret classified information on her servers. What about the fact that she deleted, oh, that's right, 33,000 emails, used something called BleachBit, destroyed devices with hammers, removed SIM cards? What about the 4 phony FISA warrants to spy on President Trump? No consequences for anybody. 3 long years, state-run media mob and Democrats lying about a Russia hoax, all paid for by Hillary Clinton and put together from money that she paid for. Then, of course, in 2020, Winkin' Tony Blinken, he gets 51 intel experts, supposedly former, or though some at the time were current, to sign a bogus letter suggesting that Hunter's very real laptop was Russian disinformation. None of them ever saw the laptop. None of them knew a thing about the laptop. The only thing they knew is they hated Donald Trump, they wanted Biden to win, and they wanted to give Biden a talking point in that debate after the laptop story broke. So now, what, in 2024, what can you expect now? What's the scheme that they're going to come up with this time? Because you need to know how deep, how profound, and how dangerous Democrats, the media, and the deep state have become in this country. And again, nobody is ever held accountable, unless, of course, your last name is Trump, then they make it up. And after last night, we all now know why your Attorney General, Merrick Garland, his weaponized DOJ, won't release the Robert Hur tapes, and why they are using lawfare against Donald Trump and protecting Joe Biden from the extremely damning information on Hunter's very real laptop, where Hunter implicates his own father. 10% for the big guy. Pops gets half my salary. Which account should we pay for Pops' home repairs? You know, remember those things? Are Democrats really now planning to topple Joe Biden? Now, of course, if they want to make a change, that's not going to be easy. Joe and Jill Biden have yearned for the White House for decades. You think they're just going to give up, pack it up, and leave for good? And the greater good? The Bidens only care about themselves. They are most certainly not weighing the impact to their party or their country. Now, today, after dozens of calls to bow out from high-level Democrats, well, President Biden appeared to double down on his caffeine or whatever. I don't know what it is. And they sauntered out at a campaign rally in North Carolina on a stage where he appeared, well, just as confused as normal, you know, that look, that blank stare. But then today, the return of jacked up, hyper-caffeinated Joe and all the rage and insanity that comes with it. That's right, angry, screaming, jacked up Joe. He's back. Take a look.
America bows to no one ever. Your freedom, your democracy. America itself is at stake. I told them how he had called a veteran who had given their lives in the country in World War I and refused to go to the grave sites. He called them suckers and losers. My son was one of those people. Not in World War I, but in the Vietnam. Folks, Donald Trump's the first president I've heard of that stood up there running for president, having been one term, saying, America's a failing nation. Where the hell does he think he is? America's not a losing nation. America's winning. As I stand here today, I can honestly say I've never been more optimistic about America's future in my whole career.
It's declining because of his horrific policies and the horrific policies of radical, socialist, Marxist Democrats. They're destroying the country. If Democrats want a new candidate, they're going to have to force Joe off the tickets, kicking and screaming and yelling the entire way. Well, in a post on X, Barack Obama now is kind of tepidly defending Joe, quote, bad debate nights happen, but this election is still a choice between someone who has fought for ordinary folks his entire life and someone who only cares about himself. Really? In other words, Joe Biden is a disaster, but please don't vote for him because we all hate Donald Trump and we have Trump derangement syndrome. Tonight, we can officially say the Democrats are in disarray, and with just a few weeks until the DNC, well, prepare for some fireworks. But here's one other thing you need to know. It doesn't really matter which Democrat they pick, and I'll tell you why. It's because they all think alike for the most part. They're all radicalized. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.